How is everybody doing? And welcome back for another Strength Chat episode. Today, I have got a very special guest for you all. Today, I'm joined by the Sheffield 2024 powerlifting champion. She took records in the bench, deadlift, and total. Today, I'm joined by the one and only Agata Sitko. How are you doing?
Hello, pretty good. Getting prepped for the next meet, and it's going well.
Nice, awesome. And how's training going? How's everything been after Sheffield? Kind of like getting back into training. Because I think you were at the Arnold's as well.
Yep. So I didn't really have the time to take some days off. I had to jump right back into training because I competed at the Arnold's just 3 weeks later. But yeah, I didn't really feel that beat up, so it was fine.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And I know obviously I've done an introduction there about your performance at Sheffield, but for everyone listening, who might not know how you got involved in powerlifting, and kind of your progression so far, do you want to give a little bit of a background to yourself and how you got started with powerlifting?
So it all started back in like when I started going to junior high school. I was around 13 years old back then, and I have 3 older sisters. And because of them, I started lifting at home with like dumbbells and stuff, just to like lose some weight and get healthier. And I started getting really interested in dieting and healthy lifestyle, training, all that kind of stuff, and started watching a lot of YouTube related to gym content on YouTube. And I just found a YouTube channel of a junior powerlifter from the US. I saw that the sport exists. That was my first introduction to powerlifting ever. And I thought it looked fun and wanted to try it myself. And that's pretty much how it started.
Nice. I like that because I always like to ask that question of how you got involved or how people get involved in powerlifting because the main answer is it was fun. You know, it's pretty fun, pretty cool to lift weights. And I know you've competed in equipped and raw. How have you? Did you start off in raw and then go to equipped, or how did that kind of come about? And do you prefer one to the other, or is it just enjoy, lifting in either category?
So I started lifting raw and I started in 2019. I did my first equipped meet in like 2020, I think. I did compete in an equipped meet in 2019, but I only wore the bench shirt and did squats and deadlifts raw. So I started doing equipped because the equipped culture in Poland is pretty big, and like when the coaches see that someone's strong, they push them to do equipped because that's like easy medals or something. But I prefer raw for sure.
Yeah,
It's just nicer. It's less mentally and physically taxing. Sessions take much shorter. You can lift alone. You don't need a whole like group of people to help you. And the competition is much bigger in raw. So
yeah, nice.
yeah.
And with the equip side of things, because I know with raw, like at Sheffield, obviously all raw lifters. When you've competed in equipped or raw, has your training changed, or has it been the same all the way through, but maybe just adding in like the bench shirt or something like that?
So the thing is, I've been self-coached until the beginning of 2022. So I didn't really have a training program at all most of the time. So I would just do my normal classic training and then add some equipped singles once a week for equipped. And then the last full power equipped meet I did was in 2022 when I was prepping for both classic worlds and equipped world games. So again, I did my usual training, but just one SBD session was equipped.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And with that as well, working with a coach now.
Yeah.
Yeah, how have you found? Because I think it's quite popular, especially when lifters first start in powerlifting, doing their own training, their own programming, because there's so much content and information out there. How have you found, or how have you found transitioning from your own programming and training to working with a coach? Any challenges, or was it a pretty smooth transition?
So I actually got a coach because I didn't know how to program for Equipped. And as I mentioned, I was prepping for World Games. That was a pretty big concern for me. So I asked my boyfriend, who I've recently, I met him at the national meet, and I told him a week later that, oh, I need to find a coach for Equipped. And he told me to go to Pavel, who is now my coach, because he knew him. And at first, he only programmed for my Equipped lifting. I was doing my own program for Classic, but then I got injured pretty bad
Right.
before Sheffield 2023. So after that meet, he started fully programming for me to get me out of that injury. And I think that was the best decision I could have
Yeah.
made. I was a little bit scared and anxious because I've been self-coached for so long, and giving all that power to someone else was a bit
Yeah.
scary. But he's always asking me about my opinion and all, and taking my insight when programming for me. So it's pretty good.
Nice. And did that kind of, because sometimes it might be the same, when swapping coaches or something like that. Do you feel as though the him asking you questions and you two working as a team kind of took away those feelings of nervous and a little bit unsure?
Yeah, for sure. So when I was going into Worlds in 2022, going against Jessica Bittner, I knew the strength was there, but I was so nervous about everything. Did I program the peaking right? Will I be able to perform on the day and all that kind of things? I was so scared that I just messed up. And now I know that I'm in good hands. And even if I fail a lift 1 week before the comp, I know my coach will be able to like take the best out of this, and I will be able to perform on the midday.
Nice. And has that kind of allowed you to go into competitions with a little bit more confidence, knowing that it's not the end result isn't all on you. You've got that team there with you to be able to put that plan in place.
Yep, and that's part of the reason why I knew I could aim to hit 600 at Sheffield, because I knew that we can do it together, and I knew I will just be able to hit PRs on midday. And looking at training, like adding 20 kilos to my best training total didn't seem unrealistic at all.
Yeah, nice. And touching on, because that was one of the things that we wanted to, or I wanted to touch on. Obviously, seeing you compete in 2023 at Sheffield, and then seeing you win. Number one, an awesome atmosphere. How did how did this year compare to last year? And how did you feel, on the day? What was your experience like? Because yeah, you absolutely smashed it.
Yeah, so going into Sheffield 2023, I knew I wasn't bringing my best because I injured my back really bad, and we probably didn't really approach this injury in the best way because I was still self-coached back then, and my coach didn't really have a lot of data to, you know, do it in the best way. So I was going into Sheffield last year knowing that I wasn't going to go for placings, and that was a very bittersweet experience because I just loved the whole way that it played out, like this all media stuff, the venue, the crowd, and all of that. It was just so amazing, but at the same time, I underperformed. And so this year, going into Sheffield, knowing that I could win, I was definitely much more excited, much happier to be there, much less stressed as well, because I knew
Right.
that I did everything I could to be the best on the day. And yeah, it just felt much better. Which I didn't expect because I loved the experience from last year, but this was even better.
Yeah, nice. And with that as well, obviously, going into the 2023 with an injury, and the world records that you broke and smashed. Was that always the plan? Was there, maybe a little bit more there, or was it always the plan to, take those records?
So going into this year, I knew that I would be able to go for the bench press world record, the deadlift world record, and total world record. My squat is a bit lagging, so I knew that that wasn't like possible for me to hit. So yeah, that was the plan, and I knew I would have to go against Carola for that bench press world record and against both of them for that total world record. But I also knew that I did have the highest chances of getting them as I've hit the bigger numbers before
Yeah.
this meet.
Nice. And with that as well, was there any with the coach that you're working with, was there any changes in your training compared to last year? Or was it, a similar style of training? Just taking out the fact that obviously going into Sheffield this year, you didn't have, any injuries.
So when I was coaching myself, I would mostly program things percentage based, and my coach programs for me based on RPE. So I have an RPE based top set and then backoffs dependent on the top set. So that was the biggest difference. Another thing is that I did SBD 6 times a week for the entirety of 2022, and then we had to cut the squat and deadlift frequency for 2023 because of my back problems. So
Yeah.
leading into Sheffield 2024, I was squatting 3 times a week and deadlifting 4 times a week and
Right.
benching 6 times a week. So that's another big difference. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. And because obviously, your bench press record was pretty cool to watch. Has that always been a lift that you've enjoyed, that you've wanted to push, or is that something that you've worked on?
Yeah, bench has always been my best lift. When I first maxed out my bench, I hit 75 kilos and I was squatting around 100 kilos and deadlifting like 130 back then. So it was like always the most impressive lift for me, the one that I can progress on, the easiest, the one with best technique. And I've always loved benching the most.
Yeah, nice. And do you think that there's more? Do you think that there's more there? Do you think, how do you feel that you can push that? Because it's kind of, yeah, the progress that you've made on that, and how good that lift looked. Where do you feel you can take the bench press?
The goal for this year's Worlds is to hit the biggest bench press by any female in IPF history, which is currently 164.5. So I have to hit 165. And I really want to do this because it's my last chance, because then Alexis is competing and she's going to take it into like 170s.
Right.
So I'm going to work my ass off to hit 165.
Yeah.
And the lifetime goal would probably be 3 reds for me.
Yeah, nice. That'd be really, really cool. And with that as well, because obviously, starting competing, and from the first competitions that you've made, and your progression from self-coach to working with a coach now, how have you found, going from, juniors to in the open, and going to a competition like Sheffield? Have you still always focused on the fun side of it, or you've mentioned a couple of times there of other lifters that you've looked at and competed against? Is there a little bit more focus on the strategy side of things now, or are you very much kind of driven by your own goals, and like what you mentioned there, three reds on your bench? Is that your own goals that you're trying to achieve, rather than focusing on other lifters, if that makes sense?
So I've never really had a phase when I was aiming to compete at world championships. Like I was just competing as a junior. Then I randomly hit the unofficial total world record in the open, and that's why I competed at the worlds in 2022. And my mindset has changed a lot since 2022. I feel like I've grown and matured. I lost a lot as a lifter. So now I have meets when I'm going to have more fun, like a bit less important lifts like the Arnold's, girl power, that kind of things, and the meets where I'm just there to win, and that's the focus, like Sheffield words. So I allow myself to take a bit more risky attempts at those less important meets to have fun, to go for some personal goals and stuff. And on those more important lifts, I just take very like attempts that I'm sure I'm gonna get, very like conservative attempts to go get as many attempts as possible and just lift as much as I have there on the day.
Yeah, nice. And with that, because especially with the the introduction of Sheffield, and Worlds, just not too far away around the corner, how have you found that change? Because it's kind of two, like what you said there about competitions where you might have a little bit of fun, competitions where you're going to have a little bit more focus on winning. Has the strategy changed a little bit from last year to this year with Worlds being so close? And how do you feel about them being so close?
I wouldn't say they are that close,
Yeah,
like 3 4 months. That's a
yeah,
whole of season there. So
yeah,
I we aren't changing that much when it comes to strategy. Last year I was dealing with back pain, so we have to be very careful with training. This year we went back to SBD 6 times a week to experiment with that a little bit since I'm pretty healthy and nothing really hurts. So like that's the difference. I can just push more this year.
yeah. Nice.
Plus I'm bulking, so it's bulking season and that means more gains.
Nice. So with that, because and why I ask, I know you mentioned there obviously, it's about a couple of months between Sheffield and Worlds. I think it's interesting you say, it's almost a prep from there. Do you quite like the fact going from building into a big competition like Sheffield and then having another big competition on the horizon? Does that keep kind of that excitement and motivation and drive to do well high?
Yeah, definitely. I'm the type of person who loves competing a lot, and you can probably tell. I tend to do 8 to 10 competitions per year, and part of the reason is the financial reason because that's how I make money, and part of it is just that I love competing, and that excitement of being able to go on the platform and hit PRs there and go against some very strong people. That's just a reminder of why I am doing what I'm doing, why I'm training 6 times a week, and like being very strict with my day-to-day routine and all of that.
Yeah, nice. And with that, because a lot of people might be listening who might only train 3 4 times a week, which is nothing wrong with that. And obviously, when you mentioned there, training 6 times a week, competing, quite a lot, especially at the level that you compete at. And you said there about being quite disciplined with your day-to-day routine. How much emphasis do you put on the recovery side of things? Is there certain things that you do, certain things that you don't do that you've tried that don't work? How do you kind of manage that so that your body is feeling fresh and feeling good so you're ready for the next session or the next competition?
So first of all, I don't do anything outside of powerlifting, and that's a big component of why I'm able to do what I do. So I just structure my day around training. I wake up, I eat breakfast that has a lot of carbs, some protein and some fats. Then I prep my meals for the day. Then I go to the gym pretty early so that I can take some caffeine before the gym and without that affecting my sleep. And yeah, just because training earlier in the day is better for your sleep as well. So I usually go to the gym at around 12 to 1 p.m. Then I get back from the gym, I go for a walk. I try to hit at least 10K of steps every day. I track all my calories and macros, so I weigh everything I eat. I get 9 to 10 hours of sleep every day. I put my phone away before going to bed, at least an hour to two. And yeah, I take my supplements, all of that. So
Yeah.
that's all I do.
Yeah. And is there anything that, because I know when it comes to recovery, there's a big thing about ice baths and, loads of other things. Have you tried other things that you've found have worked a little bit better, or tried things that you just think just don't work, or don't work for you, or haven't been as impactful on your recovery and training?
I did try maybe not an ice bath, but like a very cold shower, but I didn't feel any difference. So I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And outside of that, nothing really.
Yeah.
Sports massages sometimes, but that's usually when something hurts and not just regularly.
Yeah, because a lot of the things that you've mentioned there, I know for myself working as a coach with the lifters that I work with and the clients that I work with, a lot of things that you've mentioned there in terms of, I think caffeine's quite a big one, so it doesn't disrupt your sleep, making sure that you're getting enough sleep, making sure that you're eating well, getting your steps in, all those things, and taking your supplements, all those things are the things that are gonna allow you to reap the most rewards, and they're not overly complicated. You can add that into your day, which is pretty good, and allows you to stay consistent. One thing that you mentioned there was obviously it's bulking season now. How have you found? Because I know obviously being in a couple of weight classes, how have you found competing in different weight classes? Have you settled on one weight class? Do you think you'll change again? How have you found that?
So 76 is my favorite weight class. It's the one where I feel I'm at home the most. And that's like my main weight class. And all the other weight classes are like side quest a little bit. So I only got down to the 69s because the world record was so low in this weight class. And that allowed me to win Sheffield. It wasn't that bad, but I don't think I would want to do that long term. Like
Yeah.
having a six packs and all, I felt a little bit too lean. And when it comes to 84s, that's usually the weight class that I do when I don't want to cut down to the 76s for meat, if it's a bit less important. But I don't think I could go full 84 just yet because I'm pretty short and I just wouldn't be able to put on so much mass. So 76 is like the perfect in between.
Yeah. And with that as well, because obviously you said there about, dropping down a weight class, feeling a little bit too lean, staying at that weight up at 84s. Does that, because it can potentially happen. Do you feel as though in terms of your levers and your technique, does that in or changing weight classes, has that ever impacted your technique, or has it just been how you've felt in terms of your own body weight?
So I've never been like heavier than 78 kilos, so I
Yeah,
can't tell about going up a weight class. When it comes to going down to the 69s, it definitely impacted negatively my squat. It just felt worse, but it helped with my deadlift. Like my starting position was much better. So, you get one thing that's better, one thing that's worse, and then bench was pretty much the same.
yeah. Yeah, because with that, I know, and why I use that as an example is, I had one lifter who competed a couple of weeks ago. She went down a weight class because she was kind of on the border of weight classes. And a little bit like what you said about being able to win Sheffield. She dropped down a weight class because it allowed her to get a qualifying total for the British. For the British Championships, and it's a weight class that she can drop down into, but maybe not walk around at that weight all the time, which I don't think is a bad position to be in, because then she can compete at bigger competitions. With that as well, in terms of the different competitions, how, in terms of your approach to competitions and the bigger competitions, what's your mentality around that? I know you've said about self-coached and having a coach there. And a lot of lifters will look at, they just want to be told what they want to do on the day. How has that impacted actually on the day? Do you speak a lot to your coach? Do you just put your headphones in and just want to be told what to do? How does that work in terms of the competition day handling?
I definitely have a lot to say when it comes to attempt selection, but we've also asked my boyfriend a lot. He was watching it live, so we were just having a group chat where we were discussing what attempts we should choose, and we kind of wait based off what I would have to hit to win, but also like what I know I can hit. So it's like we're always having a conversation of what we think is there, and like usually take the middle ground. So I said after my second squat attempt that I feel I only have 195 in me. My boyfriend said he thinks there's 200. We should go for 200. So we took the middle ground and chose 197.5, and that was the perfect attempt. I don't
Yeah,
think I would have gotten anything more out of myself, and that's
yeah.
how it works.
Yeah, nice. And with that, do you think having that conversation there, you actually end up coming to the right decision, because it's based on how you feel, plus your boyfriend coach looking at the lifts and seeing how it feels.
Yeah, because yeah, they know, they watch it from the side and they can kind of see the speed of the bar. And when you're lifting, you don't always feel the same. Sometimes the lift might look the same, but you feel a little bit weaker or a little bit stronger. So having someone who sees your training regularly and is able to tell you what they think you have is really helpful.
Yeah, nice. And with that, from when you said there, looking at powerlifting videos and learning as much as you can. Who's kind of been your biggest influences on your own training and powerlifting, and kind of who do you look up to? Because I know from the lifters that I coach, looking at the lifts that you're doing and how you competing, a lot of lifters look to you as kind of inspiration, if you like. Who's your biggest influences? Who do you look to?
When I started powerlifting, the biggest star of the 72s back then was Jessica Bittner, and that was like my first uh, influence,
Yeah,
my first like someone I looked up to. Right now, I wouldn't say I look up to anyone. I look at other lifters as my peers, my friends, who I just, I don't think I take influence from anyone anymore.
yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that, because you get to a point where, like what you said about the people that you train with and your friends, because now you are competing at that level and winning. Do you think that either the people that you train with or the people that surround yourself with is important when it comes to powerlifting, because it keeps you pushing and feeling a part of a community, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I'm that type of person who hates lifting alone. I love lifting in a big group of people, especially other powerlifters who take the sport seriously and want to achieve as much as possible. And that's part of the reason why I love that I have a boyfriend like that, because he's also very ambitious when it comes to this sport. So we can just push each other to be better in and out of the gym, drag each other out for our daily walks and all that kind of things, and
Yeah.
help each other at the gym. And
Nice.
that's like a huge help.
Yeah. Do you think that's what separates sometimes lifters that maybe fall out of love with powerlifting because they either, train by themselves or, aren't part of a powerlifting club or a community, as opposed to like what you said there with your boyfriend, with other people that you train with, that, you both want to push each other along. Do you think that's what keeps you, striving to be better compared to people that maybe are training by themselves?
It definitely is part of it, because like my entire life revolves around powerlifting. All my friends are powerlifters and all. So that's like all I do pretty much. And it just, if I'm have a worse day when I don't want to go to the gym or anything, I have people who will push me to do this, who will motivate me to get my session in. And that definitely helps on the worst times when you're dealing with an injury or just not doing very well in training.
Yeah. And do you think, because it's good that you say that, because, not everyone is 100% motivated all the time to get into the gym. There are going to be days like that. Having that support network there, does that allow you to keep that consistency? And maybe do you think that helped you recover from that injury rather than feeling like too down about it?
Yeah, although for me the biggest reason why I'm so consistent is the fear of underperforming and
Yeah.
losing, and that's what drives me forward the most. But I think to me more important is having people around me who will check my ego,
Yeah.
who like keep my ego in check and tell me that I shouldn't go up, like I've already hit my RPE and I shouldn't overshoot every week. And that helps with progress a lot. But also just like, yeah, having someone at the gym who will scream at me that I should do my accessories and stuff, that also helps, because sometimes you get those like weird accessories that you don't really want to do and they're weird, but they will help. And yeah, having people tell you just do that next set is very helpful.
Yeah. And do you ever get used to that? Because obviously, the success that you've had, so you sometimes think, oh, do I have to do that? Or do you actually think, do you know what? Actually, yeah, they've got a point there. Do you ever get used to that and actually think, yeah, do you know what? They are being helpful.
Yeah, I am sometimes like, oh, I'm so tired, maybe I will skip my accessories today. But then I'm like, yeah, but I have another big meet coming up, and you have to do your accessories to stay healthy, to build muscle and all of that. So I just like remind myself that you have another meet coming up, you have more records to break and some goals to hit. Just fucking do your accessories.
Yeah, I think that's I think there's always that point of, you can have that little bit of time to yourself to be like, oh, I don't really want to do this, but having that reminder of it, to be like, look, there's goals that you want to hit from there. In terms of what the future looks like for you, and the goals and the records that you want to break. You've already touched on the bench press in terms of goals from there. What can we expect to see from Agata? What can we expect to see, at Worlds, at the future? Where are you aiming to go in terms of your powerlifting career?
So I have a bit of a plan for 2025 and 2026. For this year's Worlds, I just want to win to qualify for Sheffield and the World Games. It would be nice to hit the junior squat world record. my squats had finally started moving. So after 2 years of no PRs, I finally hit the PR, and
Nice.
I'm hopeful it won't stop. So that would be 212.5 for squats, and then that leaves just whatever I need to win. Then for Sheffield, I will compete as a 76. So yeah, that will stop me from going too heavy at Worlds because I don't want to push that world record higher. Then I was thinking about cutting down to the 69s for Worlds next year just to get that world title, but I'm not 100% sure about that yet. But that would allow me to stay a little bit lighter for the World Games, which would be a huge, like, it would help a lot with winning because that's a IPFGL based competition. So being lighter will like give me an advantage. And then I'm thinking about going up to the 81st for Worlds in 2026 and battling it out with Amanda. I know some people want to see that. I've seen comments. So that would be pretty fun. But yeah, it depends on whether my strength is there on that level to be able to do that. So we'll see. But that's the general idea of where I will go.
Nice. And as a fan of powerlifting, like I say, seeing you at Sheffield, that's exciting to see because I think, and I don't know what you think to this, but I think with Sheffield as a competition, there's a lot. It seems that year on year, there's more and more excitement around powerlifting, wanting to see, these battles between lifters because ultimately, it's pushing the world records, pushing what people want to see. And when you mentioned there, about going head to head with Amanda Lawrence, it's going to be, that's exciting. Because I think, for a long time, and I know from me watching like the video clips that you had at Sheffield, that was really good to watch because it felt like a little bit like WWE, where like wrestlers coming out, and it was good to see. Thanks a lot, Agata, for taking the time to jump on. The last question that I like to ask, and we've spoken a lot there about, your journey in powerlifting, training, recovery, competition. But for everyone listening, whether it be people just starting out or people who have been lifting for a little bit longer, what would be your take-home points or words of wisdom?
Don't overshoot. I know it's sometimes frustrating when your lifts don't go as you want them to. I've had that period when I would just constantly overshoot squats because I was so frustrated because I was so much weaker. And I told myself every week that, damn, I've already hit those weights, they should move easier. But then when I finally took a step back and started doing my top singles at like 165, 170, which is way below my PR, I started progressing again. So that's really important. Don't overshoot. I know it's frustrating, but it's the only thing that can let you progress.
Yeah, I think that's a good words of wisdom. It's a little bit like what you said before about, putting, ego in check rather than putting more weight on. I think a lot of lifters, struggle with that and think actually going heavier is going to allow them to progress, whereas actually it can hinder their progress a little bit. Thanks again, Agata, for taking the time to jump on. Been really, really looking forward to chatting with you, especially after seeing you compete. If anyone has any questions about what we've chatted about today, see the content you put out there, or have a look at your training, where can people find you or reach out to you?
Hit me on Instagram. I always try to go through all my DMs, and if I see a question, I try to answer. So I think I will answer if you ask me. I will try to. It's yeah.gata, like the floor sign or whatever it's called,
Yeah.
Sitko, and yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot for taking the time to jump on today. Thanks a lot to everyone listening, and I will see you all next week.